We're going to be talking about the ladies' semi-finals now. Keys versus Swiatek, Sabalenka versus Badosa. And before we get on to talking about the history that could beckon for Aryna Sabalenka, let's talk about the Madison Keys Iga Swiatek match, because this, to me, Chris, was it could be match of the tournament, I think, across both the men's and women's draws, because it was just a fantastic display of hitting. It had drama, that championship tiebreak at the end. It had a match point for Iga Swiatek. This was just a fantastic advert for women's tennis.
I just think the way this was competed was so incredible. I was watching it just thinking they're leaving everything on the court. And I think we love these matches where they find levels and they find depth to their game and resilience they didn't even know they have. I think there are times where Madison was up and then you saw there was a bit of a wobble, but she never went away. She still believed in her shots. Iga went down. She missed some not great shots, but she still then made some of the most incredible shots. And I think it's that sort of mental side of it, as well as the tug of war between the players, that made this so engaging. And that final set, was it the highest level of tennis I've ever seen, most consistent? Maybe not, but it didn't matter because it was one of the best matches I've seen, because you could not know this was going to go this way. Madison could have hit an unforced error, she could have hit a winner, anything could have happened, but I did feel like it was probably on her racket, that final set. And I think that was what was so impressive about this. She's been in this situation so many times and not got the win, and she just fully believed. There was something about her that just said, you know what? I'm going to keep going for my shots. I'm going to keep hitting the cover off the ball. And actually, it was Iga who blinked.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it was very topsy turvy in those first two sets, and I do agree with you. I think with Keys, it felt like she had all the momentum. I mean, she breadsticked Iga Swiatek in that second set.
The bakery was closed, but open in America.
I was like, did she take that from the
She had
Swiatek bakery?
Yeah, a waffle. I don't know.
But I do enjoy the fact that I think Madison Keys had to go somewhere where she had not gone before. And particularly in that championship tiebreak, what I was so impressed by was she was down for like 95% of that tiebreak. It was like, particularly I think towards the end of what she was like 7-5 down.
Yep.
And there were moments where I was like, if she loses this point, it's virtual game over. But the way that she was able to stick with Swiatek and hit her where it mattered right at the end was very impressive. I mean, those two serves are, I think it was 8-7 to get to 9-8. It just showed, I think, a level as you said, I've not seen in Madison Keys before.
And I just love the fact that her story isn't going the way that so often it does, where you have that peak, you have that final, 2017 against Sloane Stephens, and then you don't get back to the level that you were at. Whereas Madison's story, it feels like with the level of game that she has, it is by no way and no means over if she can stay fit. So I think it's really, really exciting. And I've spoken to Madison before at Eastbourne, and she is an absolute delight. She is so university, liked on the tour. And she is really just an absolute breath of fresh air with her attitude towards things, because she's so happy with this result. And I think if she left everything on the court, she would be absolutely fine with it. And I think that's something where she really wanted to make sure that she did. And it was, I mean, really impressive, because so many times we think, oh, Iga's going to get through it. She's going to get through this. Yeah. She always does. She'll find a way. And this was.
Will she be having nightmares about that match point, do you think?
I think for Iga, losing this match will be a big blow. I think she played the best tennis of anybody in the earlier rounds. And so losing it when you're playing so well, I think will sting. She talked about that. It does hurt that she had that match point. It does also hurt the fact that she didn't necessarily keep her level at the height that it needed to be at in some of those key moments. But I mean, it is quite
in some of those keys moments, would you say?
Keys moments. What were the keys to the game, Joel? But no, I think she will be kind of licking her wounds, but at the same time, a semi-final here is a much better showing than last year. And she has showed some great tennis, but ultimately it's a big hitter that has actually managed to hit through her again at the Australian Open.
That's very, very true. And I mean, Madison Keys also, just looking at her run to the final, she actually could come away potentially with saying, I won the Australian Open defeating Rybakina, Swiatek, Sabalenka
Ooh.
in the run, which would be one of the most impressive runs I think in recent memory for a Grand Slam final, as well as Danielle Collins actually. So yeah, we shall wait and see. I mean, as I said, Sabalenka is in the final. She defeated one of her closest friends on the tour, Paula Badosa, 6-4,
Are they still friends,
6-2.
Joel?
I don't know. There was a bit of talk afterwards in the ceremony about they'll go on like do some retail therapy and go
Yeah.
shopping
Sabalenka
and
paying.
Sabalenka
Yeah.
paying.
She's
Yeah.
got a lot of people. If everyone she beats, like Putintseva as well, wants some birthday presents. I mean, she needs this prize money to foot the bill for some of these shopping sprees.
Yeah, I would be if I was Badosa, I would be going to town on.
Straight to
Oh, I don't
Christian
even.
Dior. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But yeah, it was quite a. I mean, fairly routine result. You know, quite close, I guess, in that first set, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I was listening to Tim Henman on commentary talk about the fact that he felt that kind of Sabalenka and Badosa's styles are quite similar, but it was just kind of clear in this matchup that Sabalenka was a notch above.
Yeah, and she has the weapon. Paula Badosa does like
Mm.
to strike big tennis against Coco Gauff. She can match the firepower. She can move really well. It's more of a level contest in terms of um, that side of things. But then when you look at, for example, the Sabalenka um, forehand, it's just that bit bigger, and you don't get the time on the ball that you might like. And I always remember she was playing some fantastic tennis, Badosa. I think it was like a couple of years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that now, when Madison Keys had that fantastic run to the semifinals. Could have been 2022, can't remember, at the AO. And Keys just hit her off the court. And that
Mm.
can happen because she shouldn't be playing like the counter puncher game. That's not going to work for her.
No.
It works for Coco. She's got to be winning points by taking it on. And if you don't get the chance to, you don't get your first strike tennis in, then you can be hit off the court like she was sort of in this case. She was just a bit underpowered in comparison to Sabalenka.
Yeah, and it's easier said than done as well because Aryna Sabalenka, I mean, she's got this fantastic record, particularly on hard courts at Grand Slams. She's now reached 5 straight hard court Grand Slam finals. I mean, that is very that is
Wow.
very. It's not really talked about. I think how dominant really Sabalenka and how consistent she's been on the hard courts over the last few seasons. Like this is like up there with Swiatek, on the clay, which feels a little bit more like championed.
Yeah, I mean, that is genuinely very impressive and something that maybe we don't always realize.
Mm.
And the fact that obviously she wasn't actually fit, I don't think, for last year's Wimbledon. So she's done all of this despite not being able to necessarily play at some of the biggest tournaments where she could get some great results as well. So I think very, very impressive. I was going to say something I quite like, which is not necessarily on the agenda for today, but I can tell you that someone has made the last 3 hardcourt finals on doubles as well. Would you like to hazard a guess?
Oh, is it Gabby
Uh,
Dabrowski?
Not Gabby Dabrowski, but a very good
Oh,
guess. It's actually Ostapenko,
oh wow.
who
Okay.
won the US Open, made the final of the Australian Open last year, and is back in the final this year with Shea Su Wei. So, you know, Sabalenka and maybe Ostapenko should team up for some doubles, and they'd be unbeatable on a hard court.
Before we kind of talk about the fact that before we preview, sorry, the final between Aryna Sabalenka and Madison Keys, was there a little like 0.01% of you that was a little bit sad we weren't going to get a Sabalenka Swiatek 1 and 2 duke it out battle in the final?
This is why I probably veer on the side of unprofessional, but I I just really, really like Keys. And I just think she's a player who, ever since she was like 14, when she got that world team tennis result against Serena Williams, she should have won a slam. She's probably the best player that never has won a slam on the women's side. Maybe
Hmm.
there's a few other players.
Svitolina better than Svitolina?
I think so. Like in terms of closer to getting that slam and
Hmm.
having the game to do it, I think Svitolina's got the most out of her game. But I think Madison hasn't always been able to contain that firepower. So I was rooting for um, Keys in that moment. But if I could choose the final before the tournament, I would have loved to have seen a 1 versus 2 because I think that would be really interesting. And I'm kind of
Yeah.
worried that the same thing that happened to Badosa could happen against Keys and Sabalenka just because one of them is going to have to hit really big. The points are going to be short. And it makes me think we're not going to have the most lengthy encounter.
Yeah.
And it does just depend who's hitting less unforced errors that day.
Is that what you think the matchup between Keys and Sabalenka will come down to? Because it does feel like a matchup that rallies are going to be short. Um, it could have moment. It could, again, like any
6-1,
Sabalenka or
1-6,
Madison Keys match.
7-6, yeah.
There could be a lot of momentum shifts as well, and it could come down to who kind of holds their nerve. Do you foresee any sort of extra pressure or nerves on Sabalenka, given kind of the history at stake? With the three-peat, potentially third Australian Open title. Do you feel like that could impact on her, or do you think she's going to be able to sort of zone that out and be ready for the occasion as well?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I think she probably won't be thinking about it necessarily. I don't think that would be on her mind. I think it's winning that final. I think the best players don't think about that goal. I think the player who that probably impacted the most, who didn't have that thinking, was Serena Williams, who really wanted that 24th slam more than anything. I think that was the detriment, how much she wanted it. Whereas I think with Sabalenka, the way that she plays is she wants to pick up titles. And then, great, I've done it. The three-peat, amazing. Celebrate that afterwards. But I don't think that's what you focus on. I think you focus on the match at hand. And I think what she's so good at is not panicking now in the way that she used to. And I think a lot has changed since that US Open against Coco Gauff, where she just went into sort of mental meltdown, because it was just so intense at the US Open. You're playing against an American. This is very different, I think. Much more even. She feels very at home here. And if she gets to a good start, like she did against Quinn Jen last year, she could run away with it. So I think stress levels will be a lot lower. I think for Madison Keys, she won't know how many more opportunities like this she will have. So I think that's where that could actually play a big impact on her mentality.
Well, it's time to make some predictions
for just keep talking, Joel.
It's time to make some predictions for the ladies' final. Keys, Sabalenka. I went first last time for the men. I'm going to ask you who is going to be your champion and how many sets.
My head is saying Sabalenka in 2, but I can just see Keys coming out there, like hitting a barn door down, taking a first set, and then a gradual momentum change. So I'm going to say Sabalenka in 3.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go.
You're not going to say Keys in 2, I don't think, are you? I did actually say, by the way, didn't I say my bold prediction was that Keys wins the title without
you had very good predictions.
A set. Yeah, yes. So I'm going to maybe repost that clip, listeners.
Yep. I'm going to go for... Oh, it's tough. It's tough.
Flip a coin.
I genuinely feel like at times you could flip a coin. I still got to go Sabalenka. I think
number 1 seed. You went number 2 for the men's. You can't go. You can't break tradition.
I do think it'll be a Sabalenka in 3.
Okay, so we're agreed, Joel.
But I think we're going to be in for lots of breaks of serve, short rallies, big hitting, big unforced errors.
Go big or go home.
I think it could be a really interesting one. We'll see. Interestingly, Madison Keys only lost this season. Clara Tauson.
A Dane,
A Dane.
I'm in Denmark. That makes me very, very proud.
So Clara Tauson can take that home. But I'm very much looking forward to finals action. Keys versus Sabalenka, Sinners versus Zverev. Let us know, listeners, what do you think? What are your predictions?
Who do you agree with?
Finals? Who do you agree with? Yeah, we would
Neither
like
of us,
to know.
probably.
Probably, that's probably true, yeah. But we're going to wrap up our semi-finals catch-up there.